Hi, I'm Tom. I publish fiction under the name T.H. Willoughby, and I sometimes struggle to find time to write. Anyone who's been watching these vlogs for basically more than one video will probably not find that as much of a surprise, but I do have some tricks I've been using to kind of counteract this and balance it out, and thought I'd share some of them with you. So, number one, well, what we're going to do is we are going to go through all of the sort of reasons why I personally struggle to find time to write or struggle to sit down and write, and what I do to kind of counteract these problems. So number one, big one, is energy. And a lack of energy can be from any number of things. It wasn't until very recently that I realised that this was almost entirely down to anxiety, and that contrary to what is going to be the case for almost everyone, all I had to do was just take a look at it and say, hang on, this is anxiety which is causing this, and I can just say, nope, I'm going to write anyway. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But just like looking at it and realizing it's anxiety and almost naming it, naming things is very powerful. And that kind of works, just to say, I see you, anxiety, I'm not going to put up with this, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And that's like very huge simplification, and there's a lot of reasons why that won't work for everyone, but it might work for you. And in particular, one of the reasons it does work for me is that I actually started, so many cars today, I actually started working with a cognitive behavioural therapist, and I think a combination of appeal to authority and I forget what the other fallacy is, but because I'm paying for their time, I'm more likely to be able to follow their advice, even if it's something I knew before, which is interesting. Like, some of the things that she's been suggesting are things that I had already read online or I'd worked out for myself and just wasn't consistently applying them. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside. Next thing that kind of stops me writing is motivation. When I have a plot out in front of me or an idea solid in my head and I can just rewrite almost, I don't find writing all that difficult. I don't find it hard to find motivation. But when it is much more, okay, I've got to plug the holes in the narrative, I've got to work on specific tiny things just to get it a bit more polished, or when I've got to do a line edit, that's when the motivation's a bit harder to come by. And there's a couple of things that works here. Number one is habit. If you get into the habit of doing something at the same time every day, it almost becomes like a mental muscle memory. and then you don't need motivation to do it, you just do it. Not everyone can set aside this time every single day, so schedules help. If you know roughly what you're going to be doing in the week to come, you write out a schedule and you put in specific slots where you will be writing, and you get into the habit of, when that time comes, you sit down and you write. The next thing that stops me in writing sometimes is friction. Friction is anything which can interrupt your writing or make it so that you are not writing at the time that you should be writing. For some people, this is people who need help with something, or it could be a job which has non-standard hours, or it could be someone coming to them for help at the last minute, which a lot of those there's not really good ways to solve, but if you're aware of them, you can be looking for solutions that fit you. But the kinds of friction that you can solve easily is, number one, distractions. You can make sure that you close down your browser so that you're not tempted by social media. You can put your phone on mute or silent. And other things like making it really quick to start writing, like maybe having a notepad and pen next to you, or maybe having a shortcut to everything you need to write right there on your desktop, so you just click one or more of the shortcuts and start writing. So that's just a few of the ideas. And the final thing I wanted to talk about regarding time for writing is actual lack of time. And in these cases, I would recommend you just have a pencil and a pad within easy reach, and you write for 5 minutes a day, just 5 minutes. Maybe right after you wake up, maybe right after you, right before you go to bed, or maybe when the kettle's boiling. And you literally have zero time to get started. You grab the pen and the pad, and you open it and you start writing. And it doesn't particularly matter what you're writing, just as long as you write. Ideally every day, but if not, then as many days as possible. And you might be thinking, what's the point in writing for just 5 minutes? The answer is, because you wrote for 5 minutes longer today than you would have otherwise done. And even if that adds up to just half an hour a week, that's half an hour of writing you did. And over the course of a year, that's 25 hours of writing. And okay, maybe it's not huge, but it's something. And if you didn't write anything at all during that year, then it's 25 hours you wouldn't have otherwise had. So that's pretty much all the advice I could come up with as I was thinking of this video. Hopefully some of that helped. In regards to my own writing, I did manage to find some bits and pieces of time to write last week. I said in last week's video that I wasn't quite sure how long I would have because I was off on holiday. But I did find some time to write, and I got a reasonable amount of my little niggles list done. And because of it, the only things left to do are, number one, to review all the scenes and make sure that they all have action to break up any long pieces of dialogue, which is something I've always been a bit bad about. And number two, I've got to make sure that the character arcs are properly in the book. Like, I know what I want the character arcs to be, know what the motivations are, but I need to make sure I sort of laid that out so that the reader can see it as well. And I think once those are done, that should be the book ready for the line edit, and once the line edit's done, I can be looking for alpha readers. So, I'm not sure how long that will take me. Hopefully tonight, well, maybe by the time I'm making next week's video, these will all be done and I can be on with the line edit and rejoice, finally progress. But that is all I've got for you today. If you've got any suggestions for finding time or motivation to write, then leave it as a comment. If you've got any questions, then leave them and I'll try and address them in a future video. But other than that, whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, have a good one.